Good morning and welcome to Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church here in Odenton, Maryland. I'm Brian Boudreaux, the Clerk of Session at Ark and Dove, and your host in the lobby, the weekly program of the life of the church. So this Sunday is Christ the Shepherd. Today we will be talking to Steve Debus about Friends of ACT and Ark and Dove's support of ACT. We have a lot going on right now at Ark and Dove with lots of mission activities, small groups, and social activities, so let's dive into those. We have started our Christian Assistance Program again. We've resumed the collection of food for CAP. That's the food pantry in Severn. Donations can be left at the church on the table just inside the front door at the covered picnic area. The CAP featured item for April is hot or cold cereal, and for May is canned or dried fruit. In addition, CAP needs volunteers to carry bags of food from the food pantry out to cars from 3 to 5 p.m. on one or more Thursdays per month, especially during that first hour, and this is during April to June. The Anti-Racism and Social Equity team and the Gleam team are joining together for a peaceful demonstration on Tuesday, May 4th from 4:30 to 6:30. We will be supporting Black lives, LGBTQ lives, and Asian American Pacific Islander lives. So bring a thermos and water and come for an hour or two to support our brothers and sisters. The high schoolers of Ark and Dove are organizing a service project for the Lighthouse of Annapolis. That's a homeless prevention support center. This project involves the preparation and donation of 25 bag lunches for people in need, and your help is needed and appreciated. It's the end of the month, and that means the parent group will meet on Friday, April 30th at 8 p.m. via Zoom. Please email Pastor John to get that invitation. Now, here are some of our small group offerings coming up. We have a book group that will be reading That All Shall Be Saved by David Bentley Hart, led by Pastor John and Tricia Gray on April 29th at 8 p.m. via Zoom. Another book group will be reading My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathway to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies by Resmaa Menakem. This is led by Lenny Gerdner and Kim Champagne over a 3-week period starting on April 30th at 7:30 via Zoom. Now on Tuesday, May 18th at 7:30 p.m., the Gleam team will host a Zoom discussion of the book, A Brief Guide to Ministry with LGBTQIA Youth by Cody J. Sanders. To RSVP, please contact Amy Tardif. Ark and Dove's Anti-Racism and Social Equity team is looking for a new co-leader. If understanding and eliminating systematic racism is something you're passionate about, please contact Paula Sparks. And now for our regular activities, Godly Play continues every Sunday from 9 to 9:40 via Zoom for kids grades K through 5. Sarah Fox, our Christian Ed elder, can get your kids signed up for that. The weekly Bible lectionary is every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Contact Pastor John for the Zoom invitation. Sunday fellowship is right after the service at 11:15. If you don't have the Zoom invite for that, you can email fellowship@arkanddove.org at any time during the service. The crafting group meets on the first Wednesday and third Monday evening of each month at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Amy Tardif has the invitation for you. Saturday game night with the deacons, you can get a Zoom invite from Ellen and Greg Makar. And finally, friendly seniors tea at 3 on Thursdays via Zoom. Pastor Tim has the Zoom invite for you there. So today we are talking to our own Steve Debus about Friends of ACT and ACT, which is Arundel Connecting Together. So welcome, Steve. It's great to talk to you. How is the family doing?
We're doing fine. It's getting closer and closer to normal. As of this weekend, both Kathy and I will be fully vaccinated, and both of our children have had their first vaccine dose. So it's getting, normality's coming back, which is good.
That is great to hear. That's great to hear. Now, we've invited you on the program today to talk about ACT and the Friends of ACT. So maybe you could talk just a little bit about ACT and what is Friends of ACT?
Sure. So ACT, or Anne Arundel Connecting Together, it's a nonpartisan citizens organization of over 25 nonprofit, faith, and small business organizations in Anne Arundel County. They're banding together to use their collective power to influence change around the area. It's nonpartisan. They don't endorse candidates, but they do press politicians and other organizations to enact policies that the community has told them are important and needed. And it's also based on relationships. These are relationships between the member groups and the community. And now, as we've grown, between our organization and the county leadership and businesses around the county. It's amazing when you can say you speak for over 1,000 or 2,000 people, what people are willing to listen to and understand the importance of the ideas that you're pushing.
So how many different groups are part of ACT then? Do you know?
It's over 25 right now, and we're trying to keep growing it. Most of them are different congregations, non-denominational. We have the county Islamic group. We have at least one Jewish temple, a bunch of, a couple Catholic churches, a bunch of not Protestant churches, and a few small, or like nonprofit and other business organizations attached as well.
Okay, and so now talk a little bit about Friends of ACT. What is that, and what makes that different?
So Friends of ACT is a special fundraising effort designed to try and raise money to get a full-time organizer for ACT. It's wonderful what all the volunteers of ACT can do, but you need somebody whose full-time job is to think about what the organization can do, what it should do, and coordinate those efforts to make a positive influence.
So what does the organizer do?
So the organizer helps figure out, okay, so what are some of the thrusts we should do? So one of the first things that ACT ever got involved in, even before we launched, was this was back in 2018 when we had the big scare about lead in the drinking water at the schools. So ACT banded together. They went to the county, the school board. We had over, I think it was like 150 people with little ACT signs, because we didn't even have T-shirts yet, and basically showed that, hey, here's a big body of people that are really caring about not just getting testing, but getting testing faster and getting alternative supplies of water for the students. And it made a difference, and it got the schedule accelerated. So the organizer would say, okay, what are our opportunities? What do we need to do? How do we get our listening sessions? And, before ACT starts on anything, they go out to the community and they have listening sessions to say, okay, is this something the community cares about? If they do care about it, what do they want changed, and how do they want it changed? A great example of that is this week, they're actually having an ACT listening session on Zoom to figure out what Anne Arundel County should do with $112 million that we're getting from the CARES Act. So they want to actually, hear from the community and then use that feedback to go to the politicians and to the government and say, okay, this is what we think you should do, and maybe social justice things can be part of that. That's one of the things they're hoping that the community may be pushing for, is, okay, how do you, in this whole time, how can we use some of that money to make a better difference towards social justice?
So let's talk a little bit about the impact ACT has had on the community. So what you're saying is that by banding together, there's been sort of a wave of influence. Can you talk about some of the things that we've seen that have changed in the community?
So I already mentioned one of the first ones, which was the drinking water in the schools. Just in the past year, a couple of the things that they've done is we've been pushing, as everybody's been trying to do everything from home. You need internet access, and the cost of internet has been a big thing. So ACT has been working around the county to try and make internet access more affordable and push for universal internet access around the county. So that's one action they've been doing. There's also been some issues, about school buses, and having the proper bus routes, not having overcrowding on the buses. There's been a lot, especially through the pandemic, about the affordability for housing, making sure that people that are homeless or in housing insecure have long-term opportunities. So ACT's been pushing for that. And early on in the pandemic, they helped push and wanted a moratorium on evictions and utility cutoffs. Those are some of the things just in the last year, but there's also a couple others, including one really big one, which was Feed Anne Arundel, where we banded together with a lot of the restaurants around the county to try and feed the community and keep the businesses open. That and some of these other ones I just mentioned are better explained in a video that we have part of that we'd like to share with you right now.
When we launched ACT in 2018, what we said was we did it. But what we meant was we have built a community of like-minded people who are ready to get into holy trouble together.
They just show you ways to get things done in a powerful way.
I would describe ACT as being broad-based organizers that tackle many issues, and we develop leaders to be able to be the voices for their own communities.
They helped us build power here and use our voice to make the management listen. I mean, we went all the way up to the top because we are on our way to getting a resident council right now. We have a playground for the kids. We have a basketball court for the kids that was built. and we also have security, and our management is awesome.
We had a lot of children that were riding on the floors of buses. We had a lot of children riding in the seats that were overcrowded. And here we are now with a victory for ACT and all of our millions of students who over the years have had a problem with transportation.
So when this first kicked off in March, we cooked a couple hundred meals and thought, wow, my God, how could it ever get bigger than that? This is crazy. And last I heard, we're over 150,000 meals made. One of the positives that is coming out of this is the networking and teamworking and the community that's been built by Feed Anne Arundel, by ACT, by I think 80 restaurants now.
Wow, we did all that. And we did all that with a part-time organizer. There's so much more to be done. We've got listening campaigns that we need to have. We need to go back to the persons with whom we have developed relationships. We need to create some new relationships. There are all kinds of things before us, waiting for us. But as volunteers, we rely upon the organizers who lead us. And we have been well led by our first part-time organizer. We are where we are because he put in the work to connect us, to build the relationships, to build power.
So it's time that we move from JV to varsity. We've had so many victories as a JV team, and now it's time for us to tackle bigger and even more broader things. But we can't do that still operating on a JV budget.
The full-time organizer is going to help us get there. People are counting on us. Our name is known. We have wide recognition in this area now. It is time.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Obviously, ACT, there's a lot of activities going on. Can we talk just a little bit about Ark and Dove and how Ark and Dove participates in ACT and what our role is and what we've been doing to support that?
Ark and Dove has been part of ACT ever since since its idea started. Both the Pastor John and Pastor Tim have been part of it. Many people in the congregation have been part of it, and some are still very active in the board and in all the events that ACT does. Financially, we've also been a good supporter of ACT. ACT members, member organizations are asked to provide about 1% of their operating budget to ACT annually. Ark and Dove has actually just increased to a little bit more than our 1% share through our gifts that we designated last year through the Peace and Global Witness offering. This year, we're going to be continuing to give to ACT through a portion of that through Peace and Global Witness, and a portion of it is also in our mission and ministry budget. So we continue to give financially. We continue to provide people power as far as volunteers working in different ACT events. And we have people in the ACT leadership trying to make sure that we figure out what to do. There's also people like Lenny Gerdner, who's been very active in some of the different listening campaigns. Cheryl Walcott's been very active. There's many people around the church that have been doing lots of things with ACT.
So before we wrap up, Steve, are there any last words you'd like to share with the congregation about Friends of ACT?
So yes, again, Friends of ACT is trying to raise, the goal is $80,000 to get that full-time organizer. When we do that, as you just saw in that video, there is a host of things that we have done and more that we can do. Just this year, we're trying to make sure that we continue that work with Woodside Gardens and get their residents group sustainable. We're trying to get that moving. We're trying to start something called Turnaround Tuesday Anne Arundel, and we're trying to make sure that through this organizer, we go back and look at some of the things that we started with, with ideas for, but really haven't been able to push as much. You saw the video. That was only a clip of what the full video was. So if you are interested about Friends of ACT, I ask that you go to www.actiaf.org. You can see the full video. You can learn more about ACT, and you can also hit the donate button and become a friend of ACT and provide your support. But there is something very important I want to mention here at the end about Friends of ACT. I mentioned, as I said earlier, Ark and Dove provides part of our Peace and Global Witness offering to ACT. So if you choose to be a friend of ACT, please don't do that in lieu of what you plan to give to Peace and Global Witness. We ask that if you become a friend of ACT, it's because you feel so important about what Anne Arundel Connecting Together does, is that you want to give to both the Peace and Global Witness offering through Ark and Dove and our support as an organization, as well as your own support to the program and the need for our full-time organizer. So it's something that I believe in. It's something that I've been working hard to try and get done. And I think it's something that resonates in our congregation and resonates in our community.
Well, thank you so much, Steve, for joining me today, for sharing all about ACT and Friends of ACT. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully folks will inquire more about this.
Thank you, Brian.
As always, thank you for joining me this week. I'm really excited to announce that because worship in person went so well on Easter, that we have decided to continue worshiping outside in person on a regular basis this spring and summer. So we will be offering an in-person outdoor summer Sunday school for grades K through 8 and adults, and outdoor worship starting on May 16th at 9:15 and continue every other week throughout the summer. And Sunday school will start on June 20th, starting at 9:15, and it will help keep us out of the sun, especially in July and August when it gets really hot. But this will mean we will have to move the start time of the live stream service to 10:30. So stay tuned for more details as we work out all the kinks to this. We'll have reservations and masks, but this will be a great opportunity for us to meet in person. So there's more details about everything else that we talked about today on the webpage and in the archive, so be sure to check that out. Have a great week. Continue wearing your masks and social distancing, and I'll see you later in fellowship. The live stream service will begin in a moment.